there's the the funnel end is production, and then there's the distribution end. So production is where are you making the live stream, and distribution is where are people watching the live stream. So sometimes this is the same place. So Zoom is a great example of a platform that does both. So you can have a show on Zoom where you are making the show in Zoom. This is how we make the Bindlestiff show. And people are invited to watch the show in Zoom. Lots of people do this. So that is a case where production and distribution, it's the same platform. On the other end of the spectrum, you have something like StreamYard. StreamYard is a browser-based platform that allows you to produce your show, whether that's live with a webcam or with videos or with overlays or some combination of those things. But nobody watches it in StreamYard. StreamYard is just sending it out to other places. And so if you produce the show in StreamYard, the distribution is going to be on social media channels. You can send it to Facebook, you can send it to YouTube, you can send it to a wide variety of places. And you can send them simultaneously or pick and choose. This multi-streaming is a really big deal. And there are a few platforms that do multi-streaming specifically. StreamYard is one. StreamYard does production and multi-streaming. There's another one called Restream. Restream you can have it be production. You can make your show in Restream. You can send it out to destinations. Again, nobody watches it in Restream, but like you can send it out elsewhere. But Restream also has the capability of accepting what's called an RTMP feed. Now, I'm not like a super techie geek, but I know that when you're talking about website URLs, the HTTP that they start with, the P in HTTP stands for protocol. It's a language that allows you to tell your browser where to go. So RTMP is a kind of analogous protocol that has to do with live streaming. What RTMP does is it creates a handshake so you can send, say, a Zoom meeting out to another destination. So right now I am using RTMP to send this Zoom meeting out to Restream. And then from Restream, it's going out to YouTube. And I have like a bunch of places it could go from Restream. RTMP is it's like signal routing if you're doing audio. It's like it's somewhat modular. So and RTMP, I would say, is the opposite of that would be using an API. So in Zoom, for instance, Zoom has a built-in API for sending it to Facebook, and Zoom has a built-in API for sending it to YouTube, but you have to pick one or the other. But Zoom has this third option, which is a custom destination. And that means you plug in the RTMP settings into Zoom, and then it can go wherever you want. So you can kind of make these like modular chains depending on what your goals are for the live stream, which are where do you want people to watch it? How do you want people to encounter it? So like from a kind of producing standpoint, the questions you're asking yourself are, well, do I want to send people somewhere specific to watch the show in a way that's exclusive? Like, am I ticketing the show? Am I using Eventbrite to sell tickets to an exclusive experience? And then I'm sharing this Zoom link only with those people? Or am I trying to get like walk-in crowd? Like if you're playing a show at a coffee shop or something where the advantage is people might stumble across it, you know, without intending to, you know, without having to make plans in advance. And there's advantages to both. And I think it's important to kind of know what your goals are with that. Facebook in particular has some nice advantages in that it's designed to be shared. So if you're streaming your show out to Facebook, other people watching it can share it to their timeline. People can share it to other pages, and there's even sophisticated stuff like cross-posting where you can make it appear as though your one video live stream is also simulcasting basically to other pages. But Facebook is it's not exclusive. I mean, they have been Facebook also has been changing with the time. So Facebook also has this like paid ticketing option now, but like I haven't been using it myself. So I can't really speak to that. Um, you know, the our attitude with Bindlestiff and with my own show is that especially in these times right now, like we're doing it on a donation basis, not on a ticket. We did a gala show for Bindlestiff, as you know, and the gala show we ticketed and then we provided a link to people who had purchased tickets. And we didn't stream that one out to social media. Like that was intended to be a kind of exclusive experience. But for the most part, we're making them donation based. We want to make them accessible. We want to make them a kind of wide funnel for people to like come in through. And that's, you know, that's not always the approach that you want, but that happens to be the approach that makes sense for these shows right now. So for donation-based shows, I would say it's really important to make it easy for people to donate. And that means communicating clearly. I mean, like all fundraising, like the main reason why people give is because you ask. Like the ask is the key thing, you know, and like feeling connected, like they ask and they feel connected and they have the means. But like, even if they feel connected and they have the means, like they might not give if you don't ask. So, you know, and I think Keith does an incredible job of asking in a way that doesn't feel like self-conscious or, you know, like he's a vaudevillian. Like vaudevillians are, and like street performers like yourself, I'm sure are like comfortable asking people to like pay money for the like high value that you're giving them. I see a lot of performers though feel really self-conscious and embarrassed about the ask part. So but along with like the ask is also the mechanisms for people to give. And so the Bindlestiff show, for instance, we have a Venmo, we have a PayPal, we have like another donation link, we have a text to donate, which we've set up because we're a nonprofit, and so we have access to this text to donate thing. But I think it's really important to give people options, not too many options, but like a few, like to like get to people where they are, so that somebody who has Venmo can easily give, someone who has PayPal can easily give, etc. And to kind of gear those toward this like visual presentation. So if you're using PayPal, like don't be like, oh yeah, and you can send me a PayPal at my email. It's like make a paypal.me link, make it something that's easy for people to see. Um, so like that, so that's sort of my like perspective on the like monetization thing. It's like, I mean, like my attitude is pretty geared toward donation-based shows, but if you're not doing a donation-based show, like there are ticketing things like Eventbrite that make it pretty easy. But then you have to ask yourself, like, who are the people who are going to purchase tickets and like how are they going to find out about this? And so if you're still working on like building your audience, like maybe doing a ticketed exclusive show isn't, it's premature, you know. And instead having like open doors and then getting people to give once they're inside, you know, sort of church style makes more sense. I mean, you know, you have to like gauge what your own situation is and like what your audience is, and are you growing them? Do you already have a loyal fan base? Like Charming Disaster, like we did some Zoom-based shows in the Rochester Fringe Festival in September, and like people bought tickets, which was great. But like that's because like we've been growing our audience for like a long time, and we could, you know. Um, so um, there's also, so I'm going to tell you about a few platforms that I think are especially useful for this. One is Zoom. Bindlestiff does our show. We produce our shows in Zoom and we stream them out to restream. So nobody watches the show in Zoom. Our shows, Zoom is used for our stage and our backstage, and the only people in it are cast and crew. There are a few advantages to this. One is that we are able to use the chat feature as our backstage comms. And so I use this for all stage directions, like so. So because when you're in Zoom, anybody whose microphone is on is audible. So I can't be like, hey, Davy, you're up next. I have to put it in the stage directions. If you have your audience in Zoom, the audience is also in the chat. And so it gets really overwhelming. And in those situations, because sometimes you do want your audience in Zoom, either it's a webinar, Zoom webinars are pretty great for doing presentational shows with that are also intimate. It kind of like splits the difference because your audience can't have their microphones or cameras on, but you can invite them to become a panelist. So you can like pull somebody up on stage from the audience, which is kind of cool. But even in a webinar, everybody's in the same chat. So you can't really use it for stage directions because either the audience will see your stage directions, or even if you say only let panelists see this, there's just too much going on. I learned this the hard way when we did a webinar-based show for the International Juggling Association conference, and when I realized too late that like all of the audience, the 100 people watching were like very active in the chat. And I was like, oh no, like how? So I was like, okay, guys, I'm the one in all caps. I am yelling like, you are up next, random juggler dude.
So it was totally a renegade show of you were in the group trying to like.
It was in fact literally the renegade show. Yes.
Right.
Yeah. So since then, I have been using WhatsApp for backstage comms on shows where the audience is in the Zoom. And Bindlestiff recently, we had like a school show where it was a private Zoom-based show for like some ninth graders. And so the ninth graders were all in the chat, like being like, OMG, that's so amazing. And I used WhatsApp to communicate with the performers. And WhatsApp is nice because you can get it on your desktop as well as on your phone, and it'll sync. You can create a group that just has like the specific people in your show, so you can all be on like a loop together. And it made it super easy, and I totally recommend it. Having two monitors is really helpful. Sorry?
Are you going to keep using the WhatsApp, or with the Bindlestiff you like the Zoom chat?
There's no need to use WhatsApp for the Bindlestiff shows because the only people in our Zoom are cast and crew. Although we actually use an intercom, like a voice intercom app as well, just for our tech crew during the show when we're all on mute, so we could be like, oh shit, did you see that? Like, all right, throw up the technical difficulty screen, or like it just because it's faster than typing to like have a voice thing. But there's no need to use WhatsApp for those Bindlestiff shows because the only people in the chat are the people you want to see your stage directions.
Mm-hmm. And you're recommending multiple monitors?
I recommend multiple monitors if you're producing a show, just because you're going to have a lot of windows open, and it's really helpful to be able to look at all your windows at the same time. So that's Zoom. And there are some particular considerations with Zoom that I'd like to come back to, because I want to just give an overview of some of the other platforms that are especially useful. So Zoom is one, and Zoom is pretty versatile in that you can produce your show in it, you can have people watch in Zoom, you can send it elsewhere, you can have a bunch of performers in it at the same time, which is nice. Like, I like it for the variety show format. But I don't use Zoom for my shows. I use StreamYard for my shows. And StreamYard, again, it's browser-based, and it is production only. It goes out to multiple destinations if you wanted to. So my shows I do in StreamYard, and they send out to Facebook and YouTube. And if I wanted it to go somewhere else, it could go a few other places. And I do that because I don't need to have more than one or two people in the StreamYard. And it has some cool features like overlays. Like Zoom is a conferencing technology. Like we've like hacked it to use it for shows, but it doesn't have any fancy bells and whistles. And StreamYard has things like overlays where you can have like a lower third pop up on screen that says who somebody is, or you could have graphics on screen. It even has a full screen overlay that's a video. So if you want to play a video that's like under 5 minutes long, you can just like click and like it'll play as an overlay with sound and everything. So it has some really cool tools. The other thing that StreamYard that StreamYard has, that Restream also has, which is the other multi-streaming platform. They can consolidate the chat. So if you're multi-streaming to like Facebook and YouTube and people are commenting in both places, you can see those comments in one comment thread, and you can you can put comments onto that will show up for both of those places. So it's like two-way. So you can see everybody's comments, you can communicate with everybody at the same time. So that has been huge to be able to do that. And so for the Bindlestiff shows, we send it from Zoom to Restream. And then we have multiple people. So I'm hosting the Zoom, which means I'm the only person who has the capability of streaming it out elsewhere. And I should add the other prerequisites for streaming from Zoom elsewhere are you need a paid account and you need to turn on the feature in your settings on the browser on the browser version of Zoom. So you go to zoom.us and there's a like stream it out to other platforms option. You have to turn it on. And then once it's on, you like see the option down below. So I send it from Zoom to Restream. And then from Restream, it goes out to Facebook and YouTube. But we also have Laura across town who is dealing with the chat. And so she's also logged into Restream and she can see the chat coming in from Facebook and YouTube, and she can comment out from Restream's chat to Facebook and YouTube. And StreamYard also does this as well. There are a few things that you can't do from the consolidated chat in both of those platforms that you have to actually like go to Facebook or YouTube to do. And that's pinning comments. So when we share our donation links in the comments, where we say, oh, like, you know, feed the artists, like, here's all the links, Laura then goes to Facebook to where it's streaming and pins that comment. So that comment floats, you know, as the thread moves. You can't do that from the third-party platform. And you also can't do that after the fact. Like that pinning can only happen while the stream is live. Another thing that Laura or our other social media person, Danielle, does at the top of the show is go to the YouTube event meaning like here's information about the show that we're doing page, like as distinguished from the live stream itself. Goes to the Facebook event page and posts a link to the live stream itself in the event, because Facebook's like integration of events and live streams is kind of janky, especially if you're working with a third-party platform to produce the live stream. So if you're doing it all in the box in Facebook, you can have an event that will become a live stream once it goes live. But if you're using something more sophisticated to produce your event, people will then look for it in the event and it won't be there. And so we always share that event link at the top of the show. In Facebook, that event link does not, that live stream link does not exist until it starts streaming. On YouTube, you can schedule it in advance and that link will exist in advance. In Facebook, you can also schedule a live stream, but like it's actually a link to a post until it goes live, and then it's a link to a video. And the difference is that when you post the link to the video, it's a playable preview. So when you post that link at the top of the show, it actually shows like the live show that's going. So that's really valuable to do at the top of the show. Other platforms that are worth knowing about are Ecamm Live. Ecamm is production only software. It's software that with a subscription. And it's pretty sophisticated. It costs about $25 a month. And it allows you to queue up scenes in advance. And a scene might be like, I'm going to play a video. It might be I'm live on a webcam. It might be me and a guest live in a webcam. And the scenes thing is really great. And there's overlays. It's pretty sophisticated. And then you can send it out to various destinations, including Restream, if you want. So if you're doing higher level stuff, I really recommend Ecamm. It's Mac only. It has something called a virtual camera, which allows you to designate the output of Ecamm as if it's a webcam. And then in another program like Zoom, you can select that as your camera input. So you can send visuals over, which is great. The catch is that it doesn't do that with the audio. So you need to have a separate solution for the audio. And there are two. One is called Loopback. It costs about $100. The other one is called Black Hole, and it's free and a little less sophisticated, but I've heard it works just fine.
Loopback and Black Hole?
Yep.
Okay.
So then there's also there's Crowdcast. Crowdcast, it works. So if you're doing Patreon-based stuff, Crowdcast plays nicely with Patreon. Like you can, so Crowdcast is like a webinar platform essentially. And it has some nice bells and whistles. It has various subscription levels. And Crowdcast, you can make a Crowdcast accessible only to your patrons if that's a thing that's interesting. Crowdcast also has like integrated donation features. You can have like a call to action button that lives under the video window. You can also have a donate button that it uses Stripe to process payments directly to you. So there's some nice features to Crowdcast, but again, Crowdcast is not a place people are going to go by accident. Like
Right.
you need to drive them there. So I think it's a really good platform, and I've used it for a few different events with some success. But it's not a discovery platform. And then there's OBS, which you've probably heard of if you haven't used it. It stands for Open Broadcasting Software. It is very powerful, very clunky, and has a steep learning curve, but can do a lot of very versatile things. So if you are getting more into like the production side and you either have a PC or you don't want to deal with Ecamm because it costs money, OBS has a lot of features, but like requires some like time invested to learn how to use it. OBS is also production only. You can make your show in OBS and then send it out to various destinations. So let's talk about your stage management considerations, whether you're a performer or whether you're running the show. When I'm running the Bindlestiff show, when we do our tech with performers, the first thing I ask about is audio. Because audio, especially in Zoom, I mean, in every platform, but like Zoom has some like special quirks. So the audio settings in Zoom are geared toward conferences. They're geared toward lots of people talking at the same time. And so the default audio settings in Zoom really enhance that, but they make music sound real crappy. So I'm gonna show you a wonderful thing, a wonderful feature in Zoom. Go down to the little up arrow next to the mute button in your Zoom window and go to your audio settings.
Got it.
And do you see where it says advanced at the bottom of the screen?
Yes.
Click advanced.
Okay.
And do you see a checkbox at the top that says show in meeting option to enable original sound?
And for microphone. Yes.
Check the box.
Okay.
All right, now get out of your settings. And now in the top left corner, you should see a button that says turn on original sound.
Actually says turn off original.
Okay, so that means it's turned on right now. And if you click on it, it'll change to saying turn on original sound. It's just a toggle.
Yep.
So what turn on original sound means is bypass Zoom's default audio settings. And what original sound does is you're going to hear more background noise. You might hear more echo from other people's audio coming through yours, but it's going to make music sound 1,000 times better. And that music that it will make sound better includes the following: live music performed by you on some kind of instrument, including the sustain that gets chopped off and gated out with Zoom typically. That includes music being played out of a device or speaker, like an amp or a Bluetooth speaker. That That also includes music coming through a mixer or an audio interface. If you're using an audio interface or a mixer to put and then selecting that as your microphone input in Zoom, it will sound crappy unless you turn on the original sound. So this is like the magic don't suck button. Um, you don't always want to use it. Like if you're just talking, you don't need it. But it weirdly comes in handy for certain kinds of acts, which on the Bindlestiff context have included somebody is juggling metal cups and Zoom is muting out every one of those like sounds when the metal cups click together because Zoom thinks it's like background or like, you know, some kind of interruption noise. Turn on original sound, boom, metal cups. Somebody's cracking a whip. The whip crack is not audible. Zoom is muting it out. Turn on original sound. Somebody is balancing a lawnmower on his face while it's running and juggling something. Can't hear the lawnmower. Turn on original sound. And you know, music. So that feature is essential. That feature is also available on Zoom's mobile app. But in order to enable it on the mobile app, you need to first have enabled it in the desktop app. And now if you're logged in as you and you go to your phone Zoom app, you will be able to go into the settings. And again, you have to like enable the feature and then and only then once you're in a Zoom meeting, you can click on those three buttons, the three dots that's like more stuff. You can go to your like settings in your meeting, and then you can just turn on original sound. So it's like a 3-step process to make that feature appear on a phone or iPad. But now that you've turned it on here, you can turn it on there. You can enable it there, and then you can turn it on and off at will. It won't stay turned on from meeting to meeting, but the option will remain there now. So you can decide when you need it. The other super, super useful thing about Zoom, and the other reason why we've remained on Zoom for the Bindlestiff shows, is that you can do something called audio share, which is it's like a screen share, but audio only without the contents of your screen, which means you can share an audio track directly into Zoom from your computer, and it will come through without dealing with your microphone at all. So that means you can talk over it, you can be muted, somebody else can talk over it, and it won't compete. Because if you have multiple microphones open in Zoom, they will compete and cancel each other out. Something that performers often ask about is, can't we leave the other microphones on so I can hear applause or laughter or heckling or some kind of interaction? And the answer that I usually give is, sorry, but no, because if they're laughing, it's gonna cut you off. Like if you tell a funny joke and people laugh, like people won't be able to hear the end of your line. So, but audio share doesn't have that problem. So you can have music playing and be talking over it, and it doesn't mute out. So here's how to do audio share. You're gonna go down to the green button at the bottom of your screen that says share screen, which is misleading because you're not sharing your screen, but start there, click that green button.
Yep.
And do you see at the top of the window that pops up, it says advanced at the top?
Check. Clicked on
Click
that.
it. Yep, click advanced. And do you see where it says music or computer sound only?
Oh, there we go. Okay. So it's in the center. Interesting. Okay. So do I click that?
Yeah. So click that and then click the blue share button.
Okay. And share.
Heads up, the first time that you do this, sometimes it prompts you for a password. Nope. You are fine, but like if you're like telling somebody else about this, just good to know that like it might prompt you for the system password, but it's only that first time. So now at the top of the screen, we all see a little green thing that says David is sharing computer sound, which means that now if you were to play a track out of like your iTunes, it's going to go right into the Zoom meeting. And it's going to be real clean. It's also going to be way louder than the microphone volume. So I usually have people put the volume slider in the app that they're playing the music out of at like 50 to 75%, so that it's not like suddenly blasting. Um, so that's like a suit. So those are like the two features that we use the most in the Bindlestiff show, our original sound and audio share. Sometimes at the same time, sometimes just one, sometimes just the other. At the same time might be you're singing over a track. So you're playing the track using audio share, and then you're singing with original audio, original
Because
sound over the mic.
the original doesn't have to be turned on for the music that's being shared to be clean.
Right. So the original, what original sound concerns itself with is the microphone input, and audio share has nothing to do with the microphone input. So like if you play your track and mute yourself, the track will continue to play into the Zoom.
And what if it asks for a password?
Then you put in your system password. It's just the first time that it's setting it up in your own system, it might ask you for that. But yeah, if it asks for that, just say yes, give it whatever it asks for. So that's like the audio stuff, and the audio stuff often takes a long time to get dialed in. Other things that we are concerned about, and that if you're in a show, people will be concerned about, are your bandwidth. If you have crappy internet, it doesn't matter how good your sound or your lighting or your camera are, like your bandwidth is key. It looks like yours is good from what I can tell right now. If you want to hardwire, that is always better than Wi-Fi. And if your computer doesn't have an Ethernet port, you can get an adapter. You can get an Ethernet to USB adapter. You can get an Ethernet to Lightning adapter. The adapters aren't expensive. And then, with like, I think 100 feet is like the maximum for an Ethernet cable to router. But if you're performing outside, like that's when it gets really, and you said you're a fire performer. So like if you're doing a thing outside and like you're not near your router, like using the cell network to do live streaming always looks horrible and is really skippy. But if you have like a long Ethernet cable, you can like plug into your router and like get a distance from that router so you can be outside performing. I mean, I don't know where you are, but like backyard, people have had good success with this in like backyard settings. And it really extends your radius if you don't want to be like right on your patio as close as you can get without burning down your house. And if you're using a mobile device, because the mobile devices often have a better camera, you can hardwire a mobile device. It also requires, it will require like two adapters. Like you would need like an Ethernet to USB and then a USB to whatever gets it into your phone. But it's really worth looking into that. Not a lot of people are hardwiring their mobile devices, but like I would love to see more people doing that because it's totally doable, and it gives you a lot more options. They have, and do you have an iPhone or an Android? So they have Ethernet to Lightning adapters that would go right from the Ethernet cable into your phone, but that is not as versatile, I think, as like an Ethernet to USB. And like you get a lot, and also those Ethernet to USB adapters often have like a bunch more like bonus USB ports to them. So like you run the numbers and you might see that like the two adapters cost the same as the one adapter and gives you like way more options. Other things that we are concerned about are lighting. So lighting right now, I have a desk lamp, like a little LED desk lamp pointing at the wall opposite my computer. If I turn it off, it looks like this. If I turn it on, it looks like this. Light on the face and light coming from the other side of the computer. So you never want to have a light source in the frame. Otherwise it like blows out yeah. I mean, a lot of this stuff seems obvious, but like you would be surprised. So having a light source that is, even like sort of 45-degree angles, coming at you from the other side. So it's not like directly on you, but like there's one kind of like over to the right and there's one over to the left. A little extra backlighting to like make you pop out from the background is nice. I mean, like you're a lighting guy, so like you probably have opinions about this, but
I just hung the lights where they told me.
I see.
So,
I'm not a lighting person, but the other tech person who works on these shows, John Huntington, is, and so his advice is typically, if you're just like looking for the best solution, it's having a couple of lights on the other side of the camera that are shining on you at an angle, and then another one kind of from the side so that you pop from the background. But I would say like bare minimum, make sure like your face is well lit. And like right now, if we were teching you for a show, I'd be like, can we get more light on your face? Do you have a light you could stick on the other side of your computer that shines on you? Yeah. But also like bouncing it off of something makes it a little less harsh. And then there's framing, and framing is kind of interesting. Like this is a new medium for a lot of people, and some of the most exciting acts we've had in the Bindlestiff show have been acts where they're either really playing with like things like perspective. So like, doing like part of the act back here so you can like see all the stuff, and then like coming forward for like the intimacy, and like, like using the like angles of the like making it visually interesting. A performer friend of mine describes it as the cone. Like use the cone. Like when you're close, you're here, and then like you can like expand as you go back. And acts that kind of use different depths of field are more interesting to look at usually. And also keep in mind some people are going to be watching on small devices, so like you might think that you need your whole body to be in the shot, but then you're like this big on the screen. So coming close when you can, if like you do need your whole body in the shot because you're like on a roll of bola on a ladder or whatever, come forward to at least like intro your act or take your bow or something. And then people are doing some cool shit with like, putting a phone overhead, pointing down, and like somebody is juggling underneath it, or somebody had a camera mounted on the sear wheel while they were doing the sear wheel, which was so cool. That was Randy.
At Monkey See, Monkey Do, my friends rigged up a camera from a balcony and they called it the bald spot detector.
That's great.
They juggle underneath it.
That's great. And we've had some aerial acts where like, the camera was underneath the rig or underneath what they were doing. So it's like, there's some cool stuff that like you'd never get live, or like maybe one person would get to have that POV. So like there's some cool things that people are doing with the medium that I think are really interesting to think about. And then other considerations are like, how is your camera? Is it your laptop's built-in camera? Because like those typically are crappy looking. Do you have a webcam? That'll look better. What about your iPhone or your iPad? Those often have a decent camera on them. You can have multiple devices joined if you're in a Zoom setting. And you can have a phone and a laptop connected at the same time. If you have multiple devices connected to the same Zoom meeting, the thing to keep in mind is that you cannot have sound going in and out of more than one of them. Otherwise, you get horrible feedback. So you can connect a phone to a Zoom meeting without connecting to audio at all. So we have kind of two scenarios for multiple devices usually. One is the phone is just a camera and is not connected to audio. And then a laptop is being used just for audio, whether that's original sound or sharing an audio track through the audio share, because you can't do that audio share with a mobile device, only a laptop. Or somebody's using their phone to capture audio and video, but they also have a laptop connected so that they can watch the show on a bigger screen, and it's easier to deal with the chat. It's just like a monitor. But in that case, the laptop volume needs to be muted, not just the microphone muted in Zoom, but also what is coming out of the computer. Yeah, that's the thing that I nag people about the most, I think, in that scenario. And you can always like plug a pair of headphones into the laptop just to like make it so no sound is coming out of it. You can also have it going into Bluetooth. Like sometimes you want to play a track. Like let's say you're doing a show, you're using your phone because it looks better, and you want it to play it. You want to play a track in the background that you can hear, that the audience can also hear because you're like moving to it. And so you have it coming out of a Bluetooth speaker so that you can hear it. Um, there's like there's like a lot of different ways it can go, but just to think about, you know, if you're using multiple devices, how to handle that. Um, there was something else I was going to tell you, which is, oh, latency. So if you are doing an act that requires close choreography, like you're doing it to tempo. I mean, I know you said you're a flow artist, so like maybe it's more like beds that you're using, but if you're doing something that is like tightly synced to the tempo, the music needs to originate with you. Because otherwise, like if I play your track, it won't be like the timing that you hear won't be the same timing that the audience hears necessarily. So you'll think that you're moving to it, but it'll look off to other people. So that's where audio share comes in, is having you do that. And if you didn't have a laptop, if you're like, well, I only have a phone and I need the audio to be coming from my end because it's closely synced, then that's when we would say use a Bluetooth speaker. Play it out of a device that is not the device capturing what you're doing. So like play it out of something else if you can, and then have it coming out of that speaker so you can hear it and we can hear it. But if we play it, like it's going to be slightly off.
And turn on original sound.
And turn on original sound. Exactly. If it's coming out of a speaker, turn on original sound. Yeah. Yeah. So those are like the sort of stage managery things. I mean, you know, it always gets like there's an infinite layer of like possibility and complexity. But you know, if you kind of understand that those are the things to be concerned about, like it goes a long way. Oh, and let's talk about transitions. Zoom has something called the spotlight feature. Are you familiar with the spotlight feature? Are you familiar? Well, okay. So you know about gallery view and speaker view, right? So speaker view, right? Gallery view, Brady Bunch style, speaker view, we're all, actually, you know what? Where's my, I'm gonna try to join this on my phone too so I could demo this, but now I don't know what I did with my phone. Do you have a second device handy?
Yeah.
Can you join this meeting with your phone?
Yes. Sign into my email. See if this works fast. Oh, so that really was helpful. It just sort of it gave me the overview of these are the important things that if they go wrong, people will notice. Yeah, that's too slow. That's slow.
Okay. Well, so I'll just tell you that the spotlight feature is like, so do you know about pinning?
No.
All right, wait, hold on a second. Let me grab my phone.
Yep.
All right. So gallery view, Brady Bunch style, speaker view, whoever's talking is big and whoever else isn't talking is little. So pinning is a subjective thing. You can decide, I'm in a Zoom meeting with 10 people, but all I really want to look at is this person's dog. So I'm going to pin that window, and no matter who's talking, the dog is going to be the thing that's big. That's pinning. And you can do that by on your screen right now. Do you see, if you hover your mouse over my picture, do you see there's like a little box with 3 dots in it?
Yep. There, pin video.
Right. So if you are the host of this meeting or the co-host, you could spotlight a video, and spotlighting is like pinning, but it applies to everybody. So if I spotlight you, like, oh no, but spotlighting, you need at least 3 people in the meeting. So let me add my phone, and then I can show you spotlighting. Join. Okay. And so when I'm joining this meeting, I've selected the meeting, and if I scroll up a little bit, there's an option to don't connect to audio. So I'm going to say don't connect to audio, join. Okay. So now we've got all of us. Yeah, I know. Where's my cat? I should have a cat cam. All right. So I'm going to spotlight you. Now you're spotlighted. Do you see that I'm 2 tiny thumbnails at the top of the screen?
Have it in the wrong. Oh, I changed it.
Did you change it to gallery?
Yeah.
So if you go back to speaker, you're big and everybody's little, right?
Yes. Well, I'm actually in both. I'm the big and the little one.
Huh. And if I spotlight myself,
I'm the little, you're the big one.
right. Okay. I think because you see yourself as well as, all right. So now you're big and I'm little, right?
Yes.
Yes.
No, I'm still both.
You're still both. All right. But you're big is the point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You have control. So spotlighting is the host pinning.
It's the host pinning for everybody.
Yeah.
So I use this for transitions. So you're emceeing the show, blah, blah, blah. You introduce the next performer, and then I do this and see what happens. Boom. Here's our next act. It's my neck. Okay. So Spotlight is a great way to deal with transitions. There is a new feature in Zoom where you can have multiple spotlights, which sounds great, except that it's only good for the viewers if they also have a recent enough version of Zoom to have this feature on it. So if your audience is in Zoom and you use this feature, anybody who hasn't updated their Zoom since 5.2.1, and they've been rolling out updates pretty frequently. So there's a good chance not everybody will have this feature yet, and so they won't get the benefit of it. The other thing is that if you are using Spotlight in a Zoom show that you are streaming out elsewhere, so like right now, for instance, I'm streaming this out to Restream, and from there it's going to YouTube. What's going out is whoever is spotlighted. So right now, what you're going to see when you look at the Zoom at the YouTube afterwards is going to be just you. And then because it's my view, the host's view, that goes out. So if I go into gallery view, it's going to switch from that to the grid in the YouTube as well. So if you're hosting a show and you want to do a curtain call, you put it into gallery view, and then everybody's visible at the same time again. For the social media viewers. And so now if I go back to speaker view, you're still spotlighted and you're big again. And then I can replace the spotlight with myself. To use the spotlight feature, cameras have to already be on. So if you're in a show and people are using the spotlight feature, don't turn off your camera. Otherwise, they won't be able to spotlight you. And if you want to have more than one person on screen at the same time, but not everybody, there is a way to do that, which is go back to that, the 3 dots over my picture where you pinned it before.
Well, you're not in gallery view, so I don't see.
You can do it on the little thumbnail too.
Oh, yep.
So do you see something that says hide non-video participants?
It just says hide self view.
Oh, maybe you're not. Are you on yourself?
Yeah,
or are you on?
That's the only thing I see. Wait, there. Okay. So nope, just request camera control and chat.
Huh. That's curious. Oh, hold on. Let me remove the spotlight. How about now? If you click on my picture, here, I'm going to put myself in a spotlight. If you click on my big picture, are you able to,
I'm not sure where to click on the big picture.
all right, I'm going back to gallery. I'm canceling the spotlight. If
Oh,
go into, all right, go into gallery
yep.
and hover your mouse over my picture and either picture and go to the top right corner where there's the three dots.
Yeah, it says chat, pin video, and request camera control.
Huh. Ooh, I wonder if they've taken away this feature because I'm not seeing it. I'm not seeing it either.
You were expecting.
Yeah. Well, hold on. I'm gonna stop my video.
Yep.
No, all right. I think this may be a recent change in the most recent version of Zoom. I'm gonna have to look into this. All right. So forget what I just said about having multiple people. On screen, I'm gonna have to look into this. All right. Well,
Yep.
one last thing to talk about, I guess.
So what I really had no idea about is the multiple systems of you doing the extra step of Zoom to broadcasting, but you just broadcast in Restream or StreamYard and send it out for a small 1 or 2 person show. Or so one thing I'm realizing is really interesting to me about this is that I can do classes this way. Workshops, I can present material live and show moves and have events.
Yeah. Would you what platform? So what do you think you would do for that? Do you think you would do it in social media or would you do it in Zoom or send it somewhere?
I haven't even gotten that. So I have been to a lot of flow art circus festivals. And we usually have groups of 7 to 10 or 12 people gather around, and with that it's back and forth. So there is the option of doing Zoom so that I can have feedback and directly interact. But then at the same time, I've been learning about master classes, the idea of setting up the teacher and the student to broadcast to a larger audience that doesn't participate, they just observe. And so with that, it would be StreamYard or Restream to broadcast out to social media.
Yeah, I mean, if you were only broadcasting to one destination, you could do it directly from Zoom, like either Facebook or YouTube. Okay. But the multi-streaming thing is kind of the thing about StreamYard or Restream. Also, the key difference between StreamYard and Restream is that StreamYard needs to be the origin, like the production origin. But Restream, you can have something behind Restream that goes into Restream. But StreamYard is great if you're not doing like a variety show where people are sharing audio and you need to have a lot of people in it at the same time. And like I like it and I think it's easy to use, and I definitely encourage you to check it out because I think it would work well for what you're describing. But Zoom and I don't know like how the cost shakes out since you need a paid Zoom in order to stream it out to another place anyway.
And you said that Ecamm is an option, and then there's the Patreon-based one, which eventually I'm hoping to.
Yeah, so that's Crowdcast. Crowdcast is the one that plays nicely with Patreon. And Ecamm is a more sophisticated production studio that if you wanted to use, like if you were using a lot of pre-recorded video, especially if it was more than 5 minutes long, I would say, or if you wanted to use like a lot of videos in a row, I would say Ecamm Live is particularly good at that. But StreamYard is pretty good at dealing with videos up to 5 minutes in length. And yeah, sorry, I lost my train of thought, but I think I think it kind of depends on what you want to do, but I've been recommending StreamYard a lot for people because it handles that stuff so well. Shit, there was something. Let me think what it was. It was about video stuff. Oh, so one thing we didn't talk about is using pre-recorded video. And if that's something that you're planning on doing, I would say Zoom is like meh at it. It's clunky because you have to use the screen share feature, but there are other ways to deal with it. So I kind of don't want to get deep into it because it sounds like you're focused more on live stuff than on like rolling canned stuff.
Actually, pre-recording moves because I can't
Mm-hmm.
always guarantee that I'm going to be able to do something. So
Mm-hmm.
the idea of Ecamm setting up in advance where things go,
Yeah.
that actually sounds like it fits with the mix.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh. Yeah, so that is a thing you can do. And Ecamm, like you it also lets you do like picture in picture. So you could have like your face on screen being like, and that's when I do the like flippy thing.
Uh,
Um um the thing about StreamYard that I think is good is that it is pretty basic, like it's pretty straightforward. Is like up a level in complexity, which isn't a bad thing at all, but it kind of depends on like your comfort level with like and the learning curve. The thing about StreamYard and videos is that you can like it has a screen share function much like Zoom does where you can actually share Chrome tabs. You can have like a video in a Chrome tab that then you share. But if a video is less than 5 minutes long, you can add it as an overlay, which means that you can just click on the overlay and it'll play the video. And then when it's done, it's back to you. Um, so I like this feature because it's so simple. It's true, Ecamm lets you do that also. Like Ecamm lets you like play the video in the scene. So I think it's a great tool and like they're constantly upgrading it. But I think you might want to check both of them out and kind of see which seems like it makes more sense. Oh, the other thing is that Ecamm does not have multi-streaming built in, and StreamYard does.
hmm,
So if you want it to go to more than one place from Ecamm, you would need to also have Restream.
right.
Whereas StreamYard has multi-streaming built in, so you could get away with just having StreamYard.
Okay. Um, do you think I could learn Ecamm without trying StreamYard first?
Mhm. Yeah.
Okay, it's
Yeah,
accessible.
yeah, and there's actually there's like a lot of resources. Like it's one of the things that makes Ecamm, I think, superior to or like worth the cost compared to OBS is that there's a lot of documentation, there's a lot of support, and there's even like a Facebook forum that's like just like Ecamm users asking each other questions. So like there's a lot of like support out there for learning it and dealing with the features.
Okay. Well,
Yeah.
that's the sort of smorgasbord of
Yeah, it's like a
availability.
say.
I'm
Hey,
feeling way more confident. It's I am impressed by how like that what I didn't know.
yeah, that's always the fun stuff is like the stuff you didn't know. I am so grateful to Bindlestiff for the opportunity to learn all the things that I didn't know about this in particular. And it's, you know, it's always like, there's like something new every week pretty much that I'm like, oh God, I hadn't even considered that problem that we're now having. But yeah, I think Ecamm's great, and I think you'll like kind of learning it and playing with it. And there's a trial, so you can have I think it's like a 7 day trial? I think it's a 7 day trial. So you download it and then you have a subscription. But what I do with Ecamm is like I have the software and then I kind of turn on and off the subscription as I'm using it. So I'll have it for a month and then I won't have it for a month and then another project will come along that I want it for. Um, But it's pretty great. Oh, and like it has cool like green screen stuff, which is really fun. Like you can have like a green screen video, which you can have in Zoom too, but they can be longer in anyway. Yeah, I think you'll like it. It's pretty fun. And you can if you are going out from Ecamm to any of those destinations, like you can have it go out to your personal Facebook and you can make that private to you. So you can do lots of testing that no one will see. You could also make a Facebook page that is just for testing stuff on that no one will like or know about and just send stuff there and then expire the videos once you're done reviewing them. I now have like 2 test pages that I use to test out like how stuff is performing, and then I can cross post it to the other one, and like there are 0 followers on either of those pages. Nobody sees anything I do there.
Why do you have 2 rather than just 1?
I have 2 because I was specifically interested in testing cross posting, which is streaming out to one page and having it automatically like syndicate to another page. And I needed to test out some of that stuff. Mostly I just use the one. Yeah.
Awesome.
So good luck to you with all this. I strongly suggest doing a lot of experimenting and testing because there is just no substitute for making mistakes. And you can do that in a kind of, scrutiny-free way.
Yes.
And it's good to know what the capabilities of Zoom are if you're participating in a show that that's a Zoom show as a performer. You had asked about getting involved with Bindlestiff on the financial planning fundraising side, and like I think that's great. I'm not really in that chain at the moment, but you should just like reach out to Keith about that. And I suspect that the answer to how you could apply as an apprentice to the new person is to like email Keith and the person who I haven't even met yet. I think his name is Roman. And be like, here's what I'm interested in doing. Like, can I be part of this? I have no idea what that person's needs are, but yeah, like talk to Keith about it. I mean, I think it's great.
Oh, it's wonderful to have found this whole community finally.
Great.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too. Enjoy the rest of your Sunday.
You as well.
And perhaps I will see you on the screens.
Bye.
Bye. Oh wait, before you go, I'm going to share that link with you to the to the YouTube. So here is the YouTube. I'm putting it in the chat, but copy and paste it somewhere because it'll disappear once I end the meeting.
Got it.
Great.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.